We know the feature that you really were responsible for was our stories at Snapchat. But our stories went against Snapchat's original thesis of one to one communication. So, what was your reference point while building it?
The stories product had already existed. And so that was, we already had the one to many. And there's other features on Snap that went against the original thesis, but I don't think our
Okay.
story did. With our story, the idea was taking this one to many and bringing the world in, bringing multiple perspectives in. Because what we've been seeing is, oh, you go and look at someone's story at a concert and you see, all these clips of the musician. And then if you see someone, a friend that's at that same concert, you're like, oh, wow, they're over there. Wow, they're over there. What would it look like to actually start to stitch these pieces together? Then you have a better perspective of this concert or this space than ever before. And you have a more human perspective on it. The way everything happened with our story is it was Evan and Bobby that came up with this idea of like, okay, we can put up this geofence in a location and make it so that if you're in that location, you have this new option to add to our Coachella story, our New Year's Eve story, our
Hmm.
Diwali story.
We also read that article, the
The
Yale
Yale
one,
article.
and it's really hard to write simply. PG, like Paul Graham says, writing simple is the toughest thing to do. And when we read that article, we were like, it's irritatingly simple.
You understand the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's my goal as a writer.
We always feel like the other person just won't get us. So we, like over explain ourselves. So, how do you get these feelings? And if you do, if you don't,
And how do you navigate them,
yeah.
if at all?
I think, which is also a big piece of product development, I think, as well. And something that Evan would always say is your user is smart. I think you want to be creating for someone that is smart, and you should be thinking that they are smart and that they will fill in the blanks. And then it's just like iterate again, writing so similar to product. Like art progresses is in the hands of an audience.
Yeah, one of our really early mentors, he told us that if you're perfect, you're late to the market.
Absolutely. I like it was very hard for me with soul, especially, something that I came up against that I'm still living because I kept being like, well, it's not ready. It's not ready. Like the people who
Hmm.
find us organically, great, but it's not ready. For Snap, there wasn't really a lot of thought on growth in the beginning. And
Hmm.
so it was ingrained in me that if the product is good enough, it will grow itself. I don't even know if we really had a marketing team until we were getting ready to go IPO, and definitely I don't
Wow.
think we had a marketing team until we had definitely over a million, but if not even like tens of millions of daily active users already, like it just, I think early days, from what I understand, Evan, the CEO, was out at the mall, like being like,
Yeah.
download this app. But once it got seeded into this one or a few high schools in the Palo Alto area, it just took off like wildfire.
You were responsible for onboarding celebrities, and so was that like a growth decision? And how did you decide who made sense for the platform?
Most people were coming to us. We really weren't having too much to go out. We were a little bit. And then I don't have any crazy stories.
And so we want to understand that what were some of the early retention strategies that you guys used to keep the users engaged and maintain that stickiness on the app?
I'm talking hundreds of thousands of people emailing the Snapchat email and saying, we need a send all button. And Evan was like, a send all button will ruin this app. Like the whole point is that even if you know that Snap is going to a lot of people, that they purposely checked your
Selected.
name and said, oh, I know Chloe is going to get this goofy face of mine. And that's where stories came from. And so I think that, notifications helped a lot with our story. Our retention that we cared about was
Yeah.
making sure people kept coming back to each story and making sure that they lasted as long as possible. And that was especially important when ads came into play and we needed them watching these ads. The copy that we used and the visual we used was very important to get people to tap on. We put a lot of thought into that. And then, so that's just getting you to tap in. On that part, I mean, our story product doesn't exist anymore. Similar to how, the magazines work today, they started as actually illustrations. And then to get more click rate, we moved to using a thumbnail of one of the stories. And then you have the second level of retention, which was how are we not letting people leave? And so that came in twofold. One big push I had for our curators is making sure that that very first snap was immersing you in a world that was just sort of, what the fuck is this? And gets you kind of interested right away. And then the other piece that we really focused on with retention was obviously making sure the clips were very, very short and making sure we never stayed in a moment for longer than 3 snaps. So if we really felt that something was interesting, we'd kind of give like a little chapter of 3 snaps of a perspective of say we're at Diwali, and like, so say maybe we'll do 3 snaps in like one home if we think this content is just like top level. But after 3, we've got to move to a whole new type of emotion, people, feeling, perspective. And that, I believe, our retention from a creative standpoint. It grew to a team of 80, but when we were just getting started, I think we probably spent at least like 2 to 3 weeks trying to find every single event in the world, cultural event, and educating ourselves of what's happening in the world, what's interesting in the world, where can we get people snapping. But yeah, back in the day, especially when we were this like small team of probably like 6, we were in this decently small shared office together, and I would like clip out these papers of these snaps and write all over the walls of, okay, these are examples of what a great beginning is. These are a beginning, middle, and end. This is when we shouldn't. I also like went out and I bought clocks. So like every like major city had their own clock. So because we were working around the clock because we were this global product. I would hold content. We shouldn't launch a story until we have about like 8 good snaps, because we also started learning that like the more we put up at once, the better that retention for that area is. And then we might not get people coming back. But no, once we were up, we were live. I'm telling you, a curator would just sit in front of this computer, arranging their stories and trying. The other rule of thumb I had was once we launch, we need to put new content out every hour so people really feel that it's live. So I was like, we're not going to approve any landscape videos or photos. We want everything to stay vertical. So you're really just watching it from a vertical spot, which I think was very important. And then we were really, really picky about photos because we would only use a photo as a moment to take a break from a storyline and move into a next storyline. But that sort of also took you out of that more immersive place in the story.
So looking back, what impact do you think Snapchat has had on social connection and society as a whole? Civilization.
Yeah, I think a lot. I don't know how good of an answer I have to this question, but I mean, think about the stories product. It's everywhere now. It was completely just stripped from Snapchat. Think about, also stripped from Snapchat was the whatchamacallit? Not AI.
Filters.
What? The filters.
Filter.
Yeah, like all the facial filters. Like, that was Snap. And that was also, not only was it Snap, it was this idea of making real life more fun.
Yeah.
And so I think that was an important piece. And I don't know, would TikTok exist without Snap and without, because I think TikTok is very much an extension of what Snapchat was and its ethos, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
But TikTok today is about truth and, yes, you still want to go viral and all these things, but you're really, I guess, galvanized, or I don't know if that's the right word, but you're rewarded for being yourself.
Authentic. Yeah.
And for being authentic, which again, I think is very much the ethos of the early days of Snapchat, say, than the ethos of the early days of Instagram or Facebook or Meta.
What do you think is the future of social networks? Where is the world heading when it comes to social networks?
I think TikTok is the front of it. I don't know, because I think the hard part about social networks is in the time we live in right now, you need so much money to build it, because things are not, it's not as easy to get this word of mouth or organic piece of it. Like, think about TikTok. TikTok spent billions of dollars on ads.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they got big. That's how they ended up having the best content. That's what kept them continuing to grow. And so I think in this world where it feels like the people in power are in power because they have a lot of money and they have connections to a lot of money, I worry that what humanity needs in terms of social media, what humanity wants in terms of social media, might not actually be what social media becomes. And that's a hard thing to stomach, because I think that the social media that we need is very human and very utilitarian, and there's meritocracy, and it's filled with love and connection and seeing each other for humans and understanding that we're in this together, and all these. But yeah, I know a lot of other entrepreneurs building social media apps, and they're struggling and it's hard, and their ideas are great and their ideas are pure. I'm really excited about Substack. Obviously, I'm an active user on Substack, and I think that kind of niche of longer form written content from the people, and then I also think that's what TikTok did very well, is that getting to make money from TikTok, if you're going to dedicate your time into being. I'm really excited to see how it grows and where they go next, but time will tell where the social media world goes. It was so fun, and good luck with everything. I'm happy to support.
Thank you so much, Chloe. It was great.
So
Great. Bye.
Bye bye.
Have a good night.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Thanks.